Welcome to SVG TV News on Monday, March 6, 2023. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Administrators, education officers, principals, and teachers today commenced a 3-day program writing workshop as part of the island's Education Sector Development Plan 2022 to 2030, funded by the World Bank Group. Addressing the opening ceremony of the workshop today at the French's House, Chief Education Officer K. Martin Jack said the Education Sector Development Plan 2022 to 2030 is a strategic document that translates the government's vision for the education system and identifies the ways to achieve this vision.
A credible educational sector plan will include evidence-based strategies for access to quality basic education covering all subsectors, formal and non-formal education, having an appropriate balance between subsectors and a focus on the learner as the central beneficiary. As we in St. Vincent and the Grenadines move to the transformation of the education sector, there would have been various consultations in which recommendations and suggestions were put forward that will seek to enhance our system in this time of constant change. And here is the medium to be used to ensure that this transformation is indeed effected.
Martin Jack noted that the COVID-19 pandemic and the eruption of La Soufrière volcano have resulted in local education stakeholders accelerating plans to integrate ICT into the teaching learning process, noting that the challenges faced provided opportunities to reimagine learning and develop pedagogy that is needed and can facilitate learning during times of crisis. She said that the writing exercise over the next 3 days is expected to yield a holistic document that will clearly articulate the strategies for achieving the vision of the Education Sector Development Plan 2022-2030.
The previous Education Sector Plan in St. Vincent and the Grenadines expired in 2019. Funding was received from the Global Partnership for Education, the GPE, under the World Bank to undertake the sector analysis and now the sector plan. Shortly thereafter, the 4 Windward Islands commenced a joint process of undertaking the education sector analysis with a view of determining what was previously accomplished and what needs to be done now in light of the various pathways for learning. This is in preparation for the 2022 to 2030 Education Sector Plan. I want to extend my best wishes to the team as you engage in this writing exercise. May it be a productive, insightful, and successful one as we plan for our nation. All the best.
Providing an overview of the workshop, regional consultant Marcus Edward said the exercise is a sub-regional one and that the process of developing a national education sector plan is the same for the 4 participating islands, namely St. Lucia, Grenada, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
We are engaged in the same process, although to some extent our plans will differ in terms of very specific content, but essentially we're following the same methodology here. So another player involved in this exercise is the UNESCO office out of Kingston, and UNESCO is providing more or less administrative support and what sometimes we refer to as thematic support. So there are some very specific areas, for example, gender mainstreaming or gender equality, resilience, climate resilience and adaptation and so on. Those specific areas are being coordinated on the supervised to some extent by the UNESCO Kingston's office. They recruit consultants who by and large look at the outputs from our meetings and our workshops, and they make recommendations as to how we could strengthen our plans and programs to reflect more gender equity and more direct issues of resilience building and so on. So we've embarked on this process in September of 2022, and as CEO mentioned, it follows from an education sector analysis which was completed in 2021. Incidentally, I assisted with the production of the sector analysis for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So the analysis would have turned up some critical areas, some key issues and challenges of the education sector. And the document is a public document. It should be available for you to consult, for you to review if you are so inclined. That highlights, and although of course you will get a number of issues and challenges highlighted, but we kind of zeroed in on 5 main areas. And to some extent, our plan addresses these and other areas that have emerged since then.
According to Edward, the process of developing the education sector plan is an engaging one.
And if you, later on, I might show you the schema on, for the plan development process, and you will see the level of engagement that has been, that is necessary and for things like that to happen. For instance, we went through an entire process of what we call identifying what are the policy priorities. And we are very deliberate in our choice of words here. The policy priorities, those transformational issues, key issues in education in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which need urgent and priority attention. And we have identified a number of those, and I will show this in a subsequent presentation. What are some of those policy priorities, sorry, and how then we now, having fleshed out those priorities, how do we now develop programs? Programs comprising strategies, activities, identification of expected outputs and outcomes that would lead us towards the attainment or the realization of those priorities. And that is where we are. We are at this point now where we need to develop those programs. Having identified the priorities, we need now to put the programs together. I, in a sense, explain programs as that vessel that moves us from the status quo, where we are now, to our desired state. So the programs move you to that expected outcome.
And school leaders from across the island will be engaged in 2 school leadership workshops at the Kingston Baptist Church from March 8th to the 10th as part of a school leadership certificate program through the Ministry of Education and National Reconciliation in collaboration with International School Leadership, the ISL. A news release from the Ministry of Education said on Wednesday, March 8th and Thursday, March 9th, administrators, including head teachers, deputy principals, and senior teachers, will meet face-to-face to complete the first 2 of 3 days of training focused on the foundation of effective school leadership. The release said the 3 will be held at a later date. And on Friday, March 10th, principals and head teachers who are part of the ISL mission to St. Vincent and the Grenadines in January from the 11th to the 13th will complete their final day, day 3 of training as part of the same foundation of effective school leadership certificate. Facilitating the training workshop is Bruce Barrett from the International School Leadership alongside co-facilitators from the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education said since 2022, 84 school administrators and senior teachers have been trained by the ISL based in Canada under the Human Development Services Delivery Project. 28 ministry officials also completed the Foundation of Effective School Leadership Certificate in November 2021. As the Sasha Hill Government School commenced its Literacy, Science and Numeracy Week today under the theme Modern Learners, Principal Janice Gilks vocalized to the students the importance of literacy and numeracy.
Students, it is important that you know that literacy and numeracy are very important skills that you need in order to be successful in all your other subject areas. Do you know that, boys and girls? Yes. Yes, literacy and numeracy, very important if you are to do well in all of your other subject areas. These skills are the building blocks to other skills. So what then is literacy and numeracy? And I know that you would have heard your teachers talk about literacy and numeracy. So what is literacy and what is numeracy? Now, literacy deals with being able to read and write, and numeracy is being able to understand numbers and mathematics. Do you understand what I just said? Yes.
Principal Gilks told the students they must be literate and have knowledge of numeracy in order to function in society.
Be able to read, we must be able to write, and we must be able to understand some level of mathematics, and not only to be successful at school, but also to be able to function in society. So when you go out there in society, everything that you do, it involves some level of reading, some level of writing, some level of understanding what you read, and some level of mathematics. So you cannot survive without even being able to at least read something and understand and write. Okay, you have to be able to do these things.
Other activities for the school's Literacy Week will include a role switch where students will act as teachers, a spelling bee competition, games, science exhibition, a math quiz, a treasure hunt, and anything but a backpack day. The Caribbean Democratic Union, in partnership with the Conservatives Westminster Foundation for Democracy Program, the Opposition New Democratic Party Women's Arm, and the Leadership Institute and the UWI Open Campus Women and Development Unit successfully completed a 10-week leadership training program here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. 28 young women between the ages of 18 to 30 from various communities across St. Vincent and the Grenadines participated in the program, which consisted of online training courses via Zoom, a special mentorship session with current and former NDP female parliamentarians held on February 18th, a Q&A session with 2 elected female MPs, Tracy Panta of Belize and Emmeline Pear of Grenada, and 2 days of face-to-face training held at the Beach Chromas Hotel on Thursday, March 2nd and Friday, March 3rd, followed by a graduation ceremony where participants were presented with certificates. Regional Coordinator for the Conservatives, the WFD program in the Caribbean, Nick Francis, thanked the participants for making the commitment to attend the online courses and congratulated them on their high level of engagement. He also noted the importance of working together to ensure that women have an equal opportunity to lead and serve their communities in the political sphere. Laura Saunders, head of the International Department Conservatives of WFD program, reiterated the need to empower more women to participate in politics and decision making, and hopes that by providing the funding for these initiatives, democracies across the region will become more inclusive and responsive. In her impact statement on behalf of the graduating class, head of the NDP Youth Arm, Vakisha John, noted that the training program allowed participants to become more confident and to celebrate their own uniqueness, and the opportunity to engage with female parliamentarians from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, she said, was an exercise in female empowerment. In other news now, we hear that Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez joined other leaders over the weekend for activities in Caracas, Venezuela, to mark the 10th anniversary of the March 5, 2013 death of former President Comando Hugo Chavez. On the radio on Sunday, PM Gonzalez spoke of the legacy of Chavez and his contribution to St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
We have to remember the solidarity of President Chavez with us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and in the Caribbean and in Latin America, and indeed globally. He's a man an extraordinary human being, and I'm very pleased that I live to have interacted with him, and many of his very admirable ideas are still very much alive. You know, for instance, the deepening of Latin American and Caribbean integration, and his selflessness. But the ALBA Bank and all the assistance given to countries in the Caribbean, including St. Vincent and Grenadines, including the Argyle International Airport.
Sounds like a modern-day Bolivar.
Yeah, absolutely a modern-day Bolivar, no question about it. All right, and that St. Vincent and Grenadines, we have an obligation to. That's also why we are involved in CELAC at the leadership level. I mean, we were there from the beginning. I was there in Bahia in 2008. Lula and I are the only two remaining. President Lula in Brazil, you were the only two remaining from the beginning. When Maduro was there as foreign minister in Venezuela, from Venezuela. But in terms of leaders, it's just President Lula and myself. Of course, I've been there continuously since 2008. Though CELAC was formed in 2010, 2011, but the origin of it was from a meeting in Bahia, in Brazil, which Lula had some.
Other leaders present for the activities in Venezuela over the weekend included Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Scarrett, the President of Nicaragua Daniel Ortega, and the President of Bolivia Luis Arce, as well as the former presidents of Cuba, Bolivia, Ecuador, and Honduras. PM Gonzales is already back in the state. Several health workers here are being exposed to 1 week of surveillance training organized by the Pan American Health Organization, PAHO, and the World Health Organization, the WHO. It is geared at strengthening ISAVI national surveillance capacities using regional and global standards as a reference and using tools for the epidemiology, data management and analysis communication and case studies to be developed during the program. Speaking to the Agency for Public Information, PAHO representative Katrina Smith outlined the importance of the workshop.
In addition to, it is also a refresher course as well, because we would know how to report an ISAVI and so on, but it might not necessarily be something that is done every day. So one, it is a refresher course on how to report, what to look for to report, and generally speaking, you will have persons who have the vaccine given. You don't just allow them to leave the clinic. People are usually asked to say, this is adults and children, just so that they can determine if there's going to be a reaction. We're also going to be providing information again on the types of reactions that could possibly occur. Also, we want to improve the recording of ISAVIs. As I said again before, it would also be because you might have different types of reactions to different types of drugs. And also we are introducing a tool which will help to track that information a lot better and to digitalize the system of itself here.
An international consultant with PAHO who focuses on vaccine surveillance within the Americas, Carnival, stressed the importance of capacity building in the health sector.
We have noted in many health institutions, as well as nationally or subnationally, that capacity for many areas for health is very low. So it's important to first get persons within the medical fraternity involved in these particular workshops, not only on ISAVI surveillance, but because public health covers a wide range of different areas, but it's important to have those persons engaged to then be trained, so then they can train other persons at lower level who they're supervising or who they're also associated with, to build that capacity to help further strengthen the system. Because if you don't have a strong core human capacity that is exposed to all of this information and applying it, then your system is going to be very top heavy. And we all know that persons at the lower level are that particular team helps keep the structure standing and makes it more sustainable over a long period of time.
22-year-old Javid De Silva, along with a 15-year-old student of Carnival, Georgetown, have been jointly charged with murder in connection with the brutal slaying of 28-year-old Sheldon Welch, better known in the community as Butters. The incident allegedly occurred on Thursday, March 2nd. According to a news release from the Police, Public Relations and Complaint Department, the police in Georgetown received a report of the disappearance of Welch. An investigation was launched which led the police to a mountain in Georgetown where the body of Welch was discovered in a pit later this said day in the Munguru Mountain. The police at the time said one male suspect was in custody. He was later identified as Welch's younger brother, Javid De Silva. Today, De Silva, along with the 15-year-old student, appeared at the serious offenses court and charged with malice aforethought caused the death of Welch by an unlawful act, that is dismembering the deceased with a cutlass at Carnival, Georgetown at about 11 p.m. on Thursday, March 2nd, 2023. The accused were not required to plead to the indictable charge. De Silva and the teen were remanded in custody at His Majesty's prison. They are expected to reappear in court on April 18th for the start of the preliminary inquiry. A post-mortem examination is expected to be carried out on Welch's body to ascertain the exact cause of death. The police are encouraging persons with information that can assist with the investigation to contact the Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of crime at telephone number 1784-457-1211, extension 4816. The officer in charge of the Eastern Division at 1784-45-86229, or any police station or police officer you are comfortable speaking with. The police say all information received will be treated confidentially. In other news now, we hear that Chairman of the Carnival Development Corporation, CDC, Ricardo Adams, has defended the promotional activities for Vinci Mas at the recently concluded Trinidad and Tobago Carnival. On WFM Issues at Hand program on Sunday, Adams rebuffed those who have been critical of the promotional activities, including a branded booth.
Synergy, who has been a really strong partner of ours over the years, also offered the opportunity for us to have a branded presence on Ariapita Avenue, right opposite Synergy Studios, which is right where they carry on Monday and Tuesday a stage that is continuously crossed by masqueraders, etc. And so we jumped at that opportunity. Next to the CDC booth, the Vinci Mas booth, was Miami Carnival's booth. There was a Campari tent, and then next to that was the crop over booth. So we are doing things, and we are in the early adoption phase of things that are being rolled out, that are being also done by Miami Carnival, which everybody recognizes is a growing hub for carnivals, and crop over, which people always say, why are we not doing as much as crop over is doing? So we're doing those things and leveraging the relationships that we have with these entities, and doing them with the limited budget that we have compared to these other countries. Now, the booth that was there was set up on Carnival Sunday. Virtually, the booths were structurally identical. The branding on the booths was the same except for the graphics on them. And then the CDC, in fact, provided additional branding material at our booth. Then I heard that other booths were so much better, and maybe the CDC took the money that they could have used for branding to do other stuff, etc.
Adams made it clear that he paid his own expenses to be at the Trinidad Carnival. However, he used the opportunity to support the CDC's marketing officer, Ezzy Roberts, with the promotional activities for Vinci Mas 2023. He said while in Trinidad, they were able to get airtime on 7 radio stations, 2 television stations other than Synergy, and a presence at the all-inclusive event, brunch and soca.
People ask, why are you not handing out pamphlets, right? Brochures. That was another criticism. What we have done is we have transitioned to QR codes. Everybody's doing things on their phones now. We have transitioned to QR codes where people can come and focus on the QR code, and it automatically takes you to our website, our Facebook, and our Instagram accounts, straight from there. I don't know how many events in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I certainly didn't see any in Trinidad and Tobago where people were handing out flyers anymore. The marketing has transitioned, right? Subsequent to Trinidad and Tobago, subsequent to getting back from there, in partnership with our media consultant, I don't know if persons saw that we were on One Caribbean TV, which is broadcast again into Europe, etc. We've been in Newsday and the Guardian, right? And we're talking full page coverage of the Vinci Mas presence. And as he will speak to it also, but on the way back, due to flight arrangements, he had to overnight in Barbados. And he again utilized that opportunity for us to be able to do some marketing presence in Barbados. I challenge anybody to tell me a year when we had a more aggressive marketing of the Vinci Mas product, when we had a higher level of presence of Vinci Mas in Trinidad and Tobago and across the region.
Marketing Officer of the CDC, Ezzy Roberts, said coming out of the experience in Trinidad and Tobago, they have been receiving calls from various entities, including media houses, with persons expressing interest in Vinci Mas 2023.
We have all this coverage throughout Barbados, Trinidad, Grenada, and outside, and also extra-regionally. So I am quite pleased. I'm quite happy with how things turn out. I want to emphasize again, it wasn't St. Vincent alone, Vinci Mas only on Aripita Avenue are doing promotions with Synergy TV. The other 2 carnivals were also there. The interesting thing though is that none of the other 2 carnivals, Miami Carnival or Barbados, utilized their booth for both days. On the Monday, their booth was simply there. It was for brand presence only. There was no activation, nobody manning the booth or anything of that sort. And the Monday, they only utilized theirs. On the Tuesday only, we utilized for the 2 days. We had brand ambassadors and we did promotions. I also want to take the opportunity to say thank you to ECGC as well. We had some products given to us through an agent they have in Trinidad. We provided some village ram, which we use at the booth, gave persons as the brand ambassadors, engage persons to tell them about Vinci Mas and to direct them to scan the QR code on the banners. So we have to say thank you to those folks. Now, interestingly, some persons are saying going to Trinidad and set a booth on Aripita Avenue is archaic stuff. You know, why go to Trinidad and do stuff like that? We should use technology. But they are not acknowledging the fact that we had QR codes which allowed persons to go directly to our website, Instagram, or Facebook. But at the same time, some of the same folks are glorifying a truck on the road with a banner. It's promoting St. Lucia Carnival. And they say, look at that truck. That's what I'm talking about. But I didn't see the truck on the road on Monday. I don't know if it was there only Tuesday. But what I did, the photo that was published, I zoomed in on the photo looking for a QR code to see if the revelers jumping behind the truck or when it's parked or whatever, persons were able to scan a QR code to take them to the website for St. Lucia Carnival. They had no QR code. St. Vincent only had the use of QR code. So I think when persons are being critical, they have to take all the variables into consideration and be fair and honest to the CDC when they're making criticism. We are open to criticism. We are not perfect. But at the same time, I think persons need to be honest with their criticism.
And Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez, who was in Caracas, Venezuela, to attend events for the 10th anniversary of the death of Commander Hugo Chavez, called into the radio program on Sunday to make an input into the matter that was being discussed.
I just don't understand how anybody could be critical of the chairman of the CDC being part of a promotion team paid for by the CDC or any other state agency to go to help to deal with the marketing of Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago. And I don't think that you should be defensive. I don't think that it is right and proper for you to go and do the work for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines through the CDC, and that you have to pay your own money, even though you go normally to enjoy Carnival. On this occasion, you went expressly, primarily, if not exclusively, to do work for the Carnival Development Corporation. And you should not feel defensive about having the CDC provide the funding for you to have gone. I don't think that we must allow a tiny group of critics to undermine what is essentially good governance arrangements. I don't know what is the basis of the criticisms. What is the basis of the criticism?
Well, PM, let me just start by saying it wasn't that if the CDC were in a position to do it that I wouldn't I wouldn't have done it. But, yeah.
The CDC or some other agency of government must be in a position to pay for the chairman of the Carnival Development Corporation to go to Trinidad as part of 2023 Carnival in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. If that is the decision of the board, duly legally constituted, that is what you must do. What is the basis of the criticism?
Well, I don't know.
Is the basis of the criticism that because CDC or the other entities money, that you mustn't go ahead and pay for the chairman to have it promoted?
Well,
the Carnival promoted. I don't see the connection between those issues.
And the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labour have deployed fish aggregated devices, the FAD, which would be placed at the seafloor where fish would aggregate around the equipment. This is according to Chief Fisheries Officer Jennifer Cruikshank Howard while speaking at a handing over ceremony of VHF radios to fishermen.
FAD, it's a fish aggregating device. This is like an equipment that is being placed in the water where fish aggregate around it or gather around it. We will have the smaller fishes who will gather first, then we will have the medium size and then the larger fish. And then we will have the bigger fish, like the big tunas, the marlins, the dolphins, that will go to this area to feed on the smaller ones. So once we have this device that is placed in the water, we know that fish will be gathering there. So once there's a gathering of fish, we will have, like the food chain, we will have the smaller ones, the bigger ones, then the huge ones that will come to feed at this device. Some of these FADs are permanent. When I say permanent, they have a lifespan of between 15 to 20 years, and they are placed on the seafloor. And those are the submerged ones. And the surface ones, they are more to the surface or near shore, where fishers can go daily and make a catch for their livelihood.
Cruikshank Howard used the opportunity to encourage the fishermen to handle the VHF marine radios with care and urge more fishermen to engage in the training programs of the ministry so that they too can benefit from similar donation.
I want to ask you guys to use the radios, take care of them. We all know how important they are to us, and we will like you to ask your other fishers to get involved in the program. We have some other radios that are available, but you know you have to be trained to do so. Our minister will speak on how we're going to have those other radios being licensed with the government, and so that every fisher who wants to have a radio can get one. But of course, the training is very important. Thank you.
Meanwhile, Minister responsible for Fisheries, Sasha, said as the ministry seeks to attract younger persons to the fishing industry, accessing modern technology is a top priority.
Seek to attract more young persons into the fisheries sector. The issue of the technology and access to cutting-edge technology is going to be one that is of first importance. And I want to encourage the young persons who are listening that we are very concerned about the safety of our fisher folk. And I know that there are many persons who want to get into fishing, but are very worried about going to sea. And when you reach in the zones that your cell phone can't work, and your girlfriend calling you and she can't get you, or your mommy, as the case may be, they can't reach you on the phone, it becomes very difficult as it pertains to communication.
At the ceremony, 81 VHF radios were handed out. The donation was made possible by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations.